Do you think it's a fair comparison, actually, Joe, to compare that to to compare what Eddie Hearn's doing to the PBC?
I think it is a fair comparison because the general message is the same. The details are different, but the general message the PBC had when it came out was, hey, we have these great fighters, we're going to put on good fights, the best are going to fight the best, and they've talked up a great game. It got the boxing world excited. They just failed to deliver. And the PBC did a terrible job marketing and promoting the product, having it on multiple channels at various different times. It was a problem. Fans had a hard time finding the fights, and PBC didn't deliver on their promise to have consistently good fights. So Eddie Hearn now comes along, and he's making the same promises. We're going to have 16 cards a year. 4 of them are going to be mega cards. We're gonna get all these good fighters, and we're gonna put on deep cards. As boxing fans, we know this is what every promoter says. Every promoter says they're gonna put on the best fights. For me, I'll believe it when I see it. I do think Eddie Hearn and his group have a better plan. I don't know if it's gonna work. I'm skeptical that they're really gonna be able to do everything they're talking about. But I do like the fact that it seems like it's going to be a streaming monthly service. We've seen it work with the WWE. They have a similar style, and that seems to be pretty successful with them. It sure seems like a lot of people get their entertainment and their TV from streaming nowadays. All the new TVs have smart TV functions where you can just put the streaming right on your TV. And we see a lot of people pulling the cord, cutting the cord, not having the traditional cable providers, which cuts out HBO and cuts out Showtime. So I'm interested in that. I think this has a better plan. With the streaming, you have the potential to get fights from all over the world. So there's good fights in Japan, there's good fights in Europe, and I think there's opportunities there with the streaming that could make it very successful. I don't know how fans are going to feel about paying a certain amount every month, at least initially, until Eddie Hearn puts together a series of 2, 3, 4 cards in a row that deliver like he says he's going to deliver. So I'm skeptical. I do think he has a better plan than the PBC, but I think the comparisons to the PBC are fair.
What are your thoughts, Francis? Is it fair to compare this venture for Eddie Hearn to the PBC?
Yes, I think that it can be compared in that a lot of the things that Eddie Hearn are doing are things that the PBC should have done to not have burned through so much money, including televising the fights on different channels, different networks. Streaming is just so much more of an affordable and more cost-efficient option to show fights, whereas the PBC was paying these different networks millions and millions of dollars and just burning through money. I feel that the PBC just didn't have a realistic game plan to market all 200 of their fighters, just didn't have the money, the time, the assets to be able to market all of these fighters, and much less give them the paydays that they deserved. I think a lot of the paydays were inflated. I think a lot of those fighters expected more money than they were worth. And then there are the fighters that didn't get the opportunity to fight at all. So that's a shame. But I think that Eddie Hearn, I think he's really good at marketing fighters. I think when he recruits a fighter, I think he does an excellent job of marketing those fighters. And I don't doubt that he'll do the same for the fighters that he recruits in the United States. Right now he's promising, I believe it's 16 fights in the U.S. per year, but I think that number could really grow depending on how many fighters he recruits here. I think there are going to be a lot of fighters, especially fighters in the PBC, who are just sort of disappointed with their experience with the PBC and are looking to jump ship. And, you know, Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing on this streaming service, that might be the new way to go. So for $12 a month, 16 fights per year, That's really not so bad. And all of the footage is live, so all of the events leading up to the fight are live. So that's great. It's like you can just watch all these press conferences, all these weigh-ins. I mean, any and all of the events leading up to the fight you can watch live. I really like that, and it's for a minimal amount of money. And then in addition to that, you also have the possibility of really recruiting more viewership of boxing, because the biggest problem with boxing is really the cost of watching these pay-per-view fights. We actually work with a guy right now who spends about $300 or $400 a month just watching UFC fights and boxing, and when he wants to watch a pay-per-view, he just orders it, but his cable bill ends up just being exorbitantly high. So I think this is a great way to kind of streamline all of this. I think there is a comparison to the PBC, but I think that Eddie Hearn is going to be doing a lot of things that the PBC should have done, and I think that he's going to be able to use the budget that he has more wisely and more effectively to make the experience for fans much better, much more consistent in terms of the fights that they're going to be watching, in terms of the marketing, in terms of the times that they're going to be shown, and then also, you know, giving the fans the same things that we love seeing on HBO. Like, we love watching 24/7. We love watching the fight game. I could see Eddie Hearn, you know, doing a show like that. He indicated that, you know, of course he wants to do all of these promotional shows and stuff like that. And I think making that also is a great way of promoting new fighters, because people love those shows. They're full of drama, and everyone loves knowing the story behind each fighter. So, you know, Eddie Hearn, I think he has a way better thought out plan, whereas I think that Al Heyman and the PBC, they were given a lot of money, and I just don't think they knew how to pull all the pieces together. So, I'm not saying that this plan with Eddie Hearn is going to be perfect, because I think there's going to be a lot of, you know, things that you need to tweak, and you learn a lot of things along the way. It's not going to be perfect, but in terms of what the fans want and what the fans want to see, I think he's really ultimately taken that into consideration. Just even in the previous interviews that I've seen with him, saying, oh, do I want to work with a broadcaster who complains that the introductory music is too loud, and that the music can only be a certain way and the platform has to be there? Of course not. I want to work with a broadcaster who knows how to create an event. So I think he is looking at it more from the fans' perspective, and I especially like that.
The main difference, obviously, is with Eddie Hearn, obviously the platform. It's going to be a streaming service rather than time buys. So you have control over the fight dates. And obviously the second biggest difference is Eddie Hearn can actually be a promoter. He can be a promoter in this fight. He can act like a promoter. He can facilitate as a promoter. He can do business as a promoter. Something that Al Heyman can't do without breaking federal law. Even though pretty much it's an open secret that Al Heyman still had the actual power in the PBC. Well, I think the comparison, number one, is that the platform is going to be from fights, and also the fighters that he named that he wanted to sign are all PBC guys.
Yeah.
So there is a sentiment, because Al Heyman and Eddie Hearn have worked well together before, that Al Heyman's just trying to transport his higher contracted guys to Eddie Hearn, while the PBC still runs and try to make some money, which I don't think they can at this stage. It's been 3 years. You can't make money at that stage. You should have been able to make money by 2016. But obviously that didn't happen. But it depends what Eddie Hearn wants to do. It depends really what Eddie Hearn wants to do. Is he really going to try to focus on an American division or is he going to have somebody else run it while he focuses more on the UK side?